I married Daniel when I was 38. He was kind, stable, and everything my chaotic younger self had thought was boring. He brought peace to my life, and with him came Aaron, his 16-year-old son from a previous marriage. At first, Aaron was cold toward me. I expected it. I wasn't trying to be his mother, just someone he could count on. Slowly, we found common ground. He'd ask for help with his homework, sometimes linger a bit longer after dinner just to talk. It felt nice to be needed. I began to look forward to our conversations, our routines. Daniel traveled often for work, weeks at a time sometimes. So it was mostly just Aaron and me. He was respectful, quiet, but you could tell he was carrying pain. I did my best to be supportive. Over time, his walls came down. He started calling me by my first name in a warm, familiar tone. One night, he thanked me for being there for him. It caught me off guard, the sincerity in his voice. It felt like something deeper was forming, not romantic, but emotional. I tried not to overthink it. He was just a boy who needed guidance, and I was an adult trying to offer it. But something shifted. One evening, while we watched a movie, he fell asleep on the couch next to me. His head rested on my shoulder, and for a few minutes, I let it be. I told myself it was harmless. Maybe it was. Still, it lingered in my thoughts. Aaron had this way of looking at me sometimes, not disrespectfully, just intense. Like he was studying me, trying to figure something out. I dismissed it. I had to. The last thing I wanted was to misinterpret anything and ruin the trust we had. He confided in me about a girl at school who broke his heart, how abandoned he felt when his mother left, how he hated feeling like no one ever stayed. My heart ached for him. I wanted to fix it. I began to check in on him more, made sure he had lunch packed, reminded him to take his vitamins, left little notes of encouragement on the fridge. It felt natural. He began calling me his safe space, and I believed I was doing something good, something kind. But a part of me started to feel uneasy, not because of what he did, but how I reacted. I cared deeply, maybe too deeply. There were nights I'd think of our conversations and feel oddly warm inside, like I was appreciated in a way I hadn't been in a long time. Daniel was great, but distant. Aaron noticed things. If I changed my hairstyle, if I wore a new color. Compliments slipped out from him effortlessly, and I started wearing lipstick, again without realizing why. I didn't see it as dangerous, just attention. Innocent, surely. Until I caught myself hoping he'd notice. That's when I knew I had to be careful. Feelings were getting complicated. And feelings, I've learned, can become a trap long before you realize you've stepped into one. I started to feel the shift more clearly with every passing day. The bond that once felt like harmless closeness was turning into something harder to define. Aaron began to linger around the kitchen when I cooked, asking questions he already knew the answers to just to be near me. His eyes held longer, his compliments became more specific. He'd say things like, "You're not like other adults," or "You actually get me." At first, I chalked it up to teenage affection, but deep down, I knew better. One morning, I caught myself taking extra time with my appearance, wondering if he would say anything. When he did, casually complimenting my dress, I felt something I didn't want to admit. Validation. I hated that I liked it. I told myself it was normal, that he was just a sweet kid who lacked a mother figure. But lies we tell ourselves always unravel eventually. He started sharing more intimate thoughts, his dreams, his fears, and sometimes his loneliness. I always listened, maybe too closely. Daniel's absence became more noticeable. He called less, checked in less. It was as if Aaron had unconsciously filled the emotional gap. He made me feel seen in ways my husband hadn't in months. Still, I never crossed any obvious line. I never touched him inappropriately or said anything suggestive. But there was something unspoken hanging between us. Something we both felt, but never acknowledged. Then came a night when he opened up about feeling unwanted, like he never truly belonged anywhere. He looked at me with tears in his eyes, said I was the only person who ever made him feel safe. He hugged me, and I didn't pull away. It was a long hug. Too long. I felt his breath on my neck, and the room changed. I stepped back, heart pounding, guilt already flooding in. He didn't say anything, just looked at me with those same searching eyes. I avoided him the next day, needing space to think. I couldn't let my emotions guide my actions, not here. I reminded myself of who I was, what was at stake. I tried to create distance, but Aaron noticed. He grew quiet, withdrawn. His smiles faded. He stopped coming into the kitchen while I cooked, stopped leaving his bedroom door open. Part of me missed him, and that scared me more than anything. Daniel finally returned home from his trip, oblivious to the emotional storm brewing in our house. I pretended everything was fine, but I was unraveling inside. The house felt colder, tenser. Aaron barely spoke, and when he did, his words were clipped. I had broken something, even if unintentionally, and still, I hadn't told Daniel. What could I say? That I had blurred emotional lines with his son? That I let loneliness confuse me? I knew then that this wasn't just a phase or a misunderstanding. It was a dangerous path I had wandered onto, and the consequences were already taking root. I thought creating space would fix everything, that if I kept my distance and focused on Daniel, things would settle. But I was wrong. The air in the house remained thick with silence, and Aaron's behavior shifted from distant to secretive. He spent more time on his phone, kept it close even during meals. One night, while collecting laundry, I accidentally picked up his hoodie, and his phone fell out. The screen lit up. A message preview appeared, and my heart froze. It was a message from one of his friends. So did she fall for it yet? Followed by a smirking emoji. I stared at the screen, sick to my stomach. My mind raced. Who were they talking about? I shouldn't have looked, but I couldn't stop myself. I opened the chat thread and read the last few messages. Aaron had been discussing me, joking about how easy it was to get me to care, how he played the broken kid role perfectly. He even hinted at how close he thought he was to making something actually happen. My heart shattered. Every kind word, every emotional confession, manufactured. Not from pain, but manipulation. I sat on the floor, numb. This wasn't a confused boy. This was deliberate. He had used my empathy against me, turning my kindness into a game. The tears came fast, not from guilt anymore, but from betrayal. He had known exactly what he was doing. When he came home that night, I couldn't look at him the same. He noticed, asked if something was wrong. I told him I saw the messages. For a split second, his face dropped. Then he smirked. No apologies. No shame, just silence. I asked him why. He shrugged and said, "It's not like anything happened." That line hit me like a slap. Maybe not physically, but emotionally. Everything happened. The trust, the bond, the feelings. Everything was real on my end. But to him, I was an experiment, a challenge. He walked away without remorse. That night, I told Daniel everything. I showed him the messages. At first, he didn't believe me. He thought I misunderstood. But after reading the full conversation, the color drained from his face. He didn't say much, just sat there in disbelief. Our marriage cracked at that moment. Daniel felt betrayed by both sides, unsure who to blame. Aaron denied it all the next day, claiming I twisted things, said it was just a joke between friends. But the messages spoke for themselves. Daniel didn't confront Aaron directly. He retreated, shutting both of us out. The house turned cold, quiet, distant. No more laughter, no more warmth. Just the sound of trust breaking, piece by piece. Realize then that betrayal doesn't always come in the form of an affair or a lie. Sometimes it comes wrapped in misplaced trust, emotional vulnerability, and a cruel game of manipulation. And when it does, it leaves behind a silence louder than any scream. I moved out 3 weeks later. The house no longer felt like mine, and Daniel stopped trying to talk. The silence between us was irreversible. What Aaron had done wasn't just a betrayal. It was the spark that revealed the cracks already present. Daniel didn't ask me to stay, and I didn't beg to be heard. We had both been living in quiet denial long before this. I packed my things without drama, leaving behind the fragments of a marriage built on assumption, not understanding. Aaron didn't speak to me that morning. He avoided eye contact, his expression unreadable. I couldn't tell if he felt victorious or embarrassed, but it didn't matter. I wasn't leaving because of him. I was leaving because I finally saw the truth. I had tried to fill a void with someone else's responsibility. I confused emotional dependency with connection. I blurred lines because I wanted to feel relevant. Again, and in the end it left me emptier than before. In the following weeks, I stayed at a friend's place. I took time to look inward, away from distractions. I thought about how easily trust could be broken, how affection can be manipulated. I wasn't innocent, but I wasn't malicious either. I had made mistakes out of loneliness, not desire. But Aaron, he made choices out of control, and that distinction stayed with me. He was smart, calculated. He knew the buttons to press, and he pressed them. Not just mine, but Daniel's too. The damage was done. Eventually, Daniel sent me an email. It was short. He said he needed time, maybe space forever. He wasn't angry, just tired. He didn't blame me entirely, but he couldn't forget what happened. I respected that. Some wounds don't need words, they need distance. I didn't reply. There was nothing more to explain. We both saw different sides of the same tragedy, and neither of us knew how to heal it. Months passed and I began to rebuild. I found work at a nonprofit, poured myself into helping others. Not for validation this time, but because it gave me purpose. I kept to myself, avoided forming new emotional ties too quickly. I learned to set boundaries. I learned to protect my heart, even from people who seem harmless, especially from them. As for Aaron, I don't know what became of him. Daniel and I never spoke again. Some chapters don't need sequels. They just need closure. And I found mine not through revenge or confrontation, but by walking away. I learned that betrayal doesn't always leave scars you can see, but it teaches you to guard the invisible ones. I carry that lesson every day, not with bitterness, but with clarity. In the end, I didn't lose everything. I found myself. And in a story that began with trust and ended in heartbreak, that was the one thing worth saving.